إلهي لست للفردوس أهلا.
I am in England. This is my 10th day of a short visit to the community in Great Britain, and I wanted to make this recording as a record of what I believe is the importance of Muamalat in our age. I would like to outline the importance of a few ideas. These ideas, each one, they represent another way of looking at our reality, a new set of possibilities of what can be done and what we can become. Muamalat is the social and political model of Islam. In Islam, we speak about ibadah as the relationship between Allah and the slaves. And the relationship between the slaves, between mankind, all those elements are known as Muamalat. Muamalat is not just a system of what is allowed and what is not allowed, of do's and don'ts. It's also a model of society that represents our history from the beginning of Islam until the end of the Caliphate. Our societies were run according to a different model than what we have today. Now, the importance of Muamalat is the importance of understanding our own history. The fact that we have a past is important because we are in a situation, in an historical situation, where we need to change the model that it was imposed upon us. Capitalism, which is the model in which riba is halal, is the economic model in which the banks reign supreme, is the mode of central banks, fiat money, and national debt. Is a model that is endorsed by the highest degree of the legal systems, the constitutions. The constitutions that they were, after World War II, given to all the new emerging Muslim nations, creating an order in which capitalism legally will be the basis of society. Islam then was pushed aside, and the only Islam that was allowed to surface was the ibadah, our worshipping, our funerals and our marriages. But the society, the social issues of Islam, they were taken away from us. Instead, by the imposition of constitutional law, we find ourselves immersed inside a central bank, which is haram to us. Central banks, fiat money, and national debt are the foundations of the new world order that was created after World War II. The principle of this is the standing of the US dollar as the currency of the world, and the supremacy of the economic model that the West has brought to the East. We were not given options on these issues. The model was left behind. Ironically, at the same time that independence was declared, they were giving us the prison in which we were to be independent. It is only within that economic frame that we will be granted the freedom to pursue our political and economic aims. Islamically speaking, what was left for us was only what is now known as religious affairs, economic and political and social issues. They were all within what secular constitutions had defined. Islam could say riba is haram, but the constitution defined itself above the legal parameters of the Quran, was capable of defining the central banks as the institution of the land. The freedom that Allah grants, and Islamic law grants to Muslims to choose the medium of exchange, was repealed by virtue of the constitution that says all the citizens of this country will have to use the paper currency issued by the central bank, whether they like it or not. So paper currencies were overimposed themselves over the freedom of people. And national debt was overimposed on everybody's as a matter of fact, even though there is no basis in Islamic law to support or justify that any individual may be obliged to pay the debt incurred by somebody else. No government can spend money on your behalf or buy what you do not want to buy, and let alone to oblige you to pay for what you have not bought. Yet, national debt, endorsed by the constitutions, imply that every Pakistani, every Malaysian, every Indonesian that comes to the world, that is born, comes into existence already with a debt, sometimes, ironically, larger than the total amount of money they will be able to save in their entire economic life. This is the model that it was given to us. Islam was therefore reduced to small personal matters. Some Muslims, they try to create an Islamic reality, an Islamic economic reality within the frame given by the constitutions. In order to do that, they had to compromise, and they saw these things as a virtue of their activities. It is in the context of trying to bring Islamic law within the constitutional frame that we have banks transform into Islamic banks, insurance into Islamic insurance, credit cards into Islamic credit cards, stock exchange into Islamic stock exchange. The thing has continued to the point of absurdity, where now the entire capitalist reality has been Islamized. We have Islamic futures, we have Islamic interests. So it is nothing but natural that many of the people who started Islamic banking are now critical of what is coming now. What we propose is that Muamalat and the Islamic reality, the social and economic and political reality of Islam, cannot be developed inside the narrow framework given by the constitutions. But in fact, the very development and success of Muamalat will mean the abolition of these secular, Western-given constitutions, the abolition of the central bank, the abolition of the obligation of fiat money, the obligation of the national debt, are the foundational elements in which Islamic Muamalat can raise and be successful. We have to deny the central banks because they are haram. We have to deny fiat money because it's against the will of the people. And we have to deny the national debt because it's an entire fraud on the nation. Muamalat stands upon different institutions, new institutions, that they are known in the fiqh, that they are known in our history. One of them is the dinar and the dirham, the gold and the silver coin. Islam has a saying has something to say about money. We do not impose gold and silver. What we proclaim is the freedom of people to choose gold and silver or platinum or whatever they wish. This is endorsed by the ayat where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, trade with mutual consent. Tijaratun a'an taradim minkum. Trade with mutual consent is why we defend dinar and dirham, and the method by which we want to restore the dinar and the dirham. Not by the legislation of government to tell us we have to use dinar and dirham, but by the freely chosen will of the nation to choose dinar and dirham. Nobody can liberate one individual except themselves. What we want is to bring the dinar from the bottom up, not by legislation, but by choice. This is what we mean by the introduction of the gold dinar. This is a 10 dinar coin, and this is a 10 dirham coin. Dinar and dirham were the currency of Islam for 1,400 years. From the beginning of Islam, we use gold and silver coins. The principle of dinar and dirham is weight. So 1 dinar is equal to 1 mithqal, which equals to 4.25 grams. And the weight of the dirham, according to what is known as the standard of Omar ibn al-Khattab, is 7/10 of the mithqal, so that is 2.975 grams. They have no inflation. One chicken at the time of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam cost 1 dirham, and today you can buy 1 chicken in Britain for approximately 1 dirham. 1,400 years later, and the price is the same. The same is applicable to gold. So commodities against commodities, they remain stable. If you compare that with the paper currency, even the mighty US dollar has lost 95% of its value in the last 50 years. So no inflation means there is no theft on the people. The dinar and the dirham means the end of inflation. It also means the end of the banks, because the banks cannot operate fractional reserve banking with the present, with gold and silver. They can only do it with the present paper money that they have. The dinar is also the end of the US dollar. Dr. Mahathir, who had advocated the introduction of the gold dinar, was very clear about this matter. If the Arabs start trading the oil for piece of paper, then the US dollar will last 24 hours. We cannot accept one country giving us pieces of paper and we give them oil, aluminium, gas. If they want more, they print more. Logically, they always win. We need a currency that is stable, and it doesn't belong to any particular country. This is what gold and silver brings about. Other aspects of Muamalat are the souks, the caravans, and the guilds. In fact, the most important institution of Muamalat is not the gold dinar, it's the souk. The souk is the public marketplace. In Islam, the markets, like the mosques, they cannot be privatized. The marketplaces must be accessible and open to the people, just like we do with the mosques. When Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went to Medina, he made a mosque and he made a market. He laid down the rules of the mosque and he laid down the rules of the market. He said, the rules of the market are like the rules of the masjid. Everybody must have access to it. There is no fees, there is no taxes, there is no membership. There is no special space for people. And just like we cannot go to a mosque and write in the floor, this belongs to Mohammed Said, you cannot do the same thing with the marketplace, it must be open and accessible. The fact that the marketplaces are accessible is why the caravans exist. If the marketplace disappears, the caravans disappear. If the caravans disappear, there is no Islamic trading, which is the situation we find ourselves in. Allah has declared, has said, حَلَلَهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَمُ الرِّبَى. But what we have done is we have made حَلَلَهُ الرِّبَى وَحَرَمُ الْبَيْعَ. And therefore, we find ourselves in the situation we find ourselves. The restoration of Muamalat is fundamental. It's fundamental to our prosperity, but it's also fundamental in order to do da'wah, to bring the non-Muslims to Islam. They want to hear about Islam. The Europeans, they are interested in Islam. And in order to present the true picture of Islam, we have to speak about the true issues. Europe is under the same slavery as the rest of the world. Capitalism is against the order of nature, is against Allah, and is against people. If Islam is capable of bringing forward this message through us, then we will find Islam opening and becoming again a force in the world. We have no choice on the matter. Riba has to be defeated. Allah has declared war on riba. Allah has declared war on capitalism. The world is crying out to find a solution to capitalism, and only Islam has the answers. So we, more than anybody else, we have to lead this fight, a fight of liberation in which the whole of mankind is waiting for us to show them the way. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
إلهي لست للفردوس